On Friday, the president telling the Wall Street Journal he was leaning towards choosing Hassett for former Federal Reserve and Governor Warsh also potentially to run the Fed. Steve Liesman joins us now on more with some commentary on the two Kevins. What do you think? Polymarket says Hassett. Are you on the Hassett end or on the Warsh end?
I'm on neither end. I'm on the end of trying to report what's going on.
No, I know that. I'm not saying who you'd like. I'm saying
no. But that's everybody asks me. It's like you go to a Christmas party these days and go, Steve, who's going to be the next Fed chair?
Yeah, that's what.
Who is going to be?
That's what I want to know.
I want to know. Tell me, Steve. But here's the thing. I want to go through the timeline here and ask you guys what you think is happening out there, because I think I know a little bit, but. Let's look at the tail of the tape here, okay? First thing, what happened is the president on Air Force One goes, I know who it is.
Yep.
What happened to Polymarket? Hassett surges.
Yep.
A couple days later, the Fed candidate interviews that we know about get canceled. Then 8 days go by, and the interview is back on with Warsh. Melissa shaking her head. Hang on, let me go through the rest of it.
Go ahead.
And then the evening of the 11th, as reported the next day in the FT, Jamie Dimon is among those signaling support for Warsh. And then December 12th, an interview, as Andrew just reported, the two Kevins are great, says the president. And, of course, we know the interviews are back on now. With we don't know yet if other people are. So what we're hearing is that there's been some pushback. People in the president's ear whispering.
Right. On Hassett.
On Hassett. And what's also interesting is those comments you just read from Kevin Hassett on CBS seem to be directly in response to the pushback, sort of, in the sense of the thing on Kevin Hassett too close to the president, which, by the way, ironically, is one of his great assets.
Right.
That's the one the president wants. But apparently the pushback is Kevin is not the right guy for the job from people who are very high level and have the president's ear. But you can see there the Warsh has gone up. Waller not yet in there, but I know a lot of people that think Chris Waller would be very, very good for the job because of his knowledge about monetary policy. He's written up.
But the idea that Hassett's 50 and Warsh is 41, I mean, it's a close. Yeah, now we're a close call here.
Right. I mean, it's a close call. What I always worry about with these
prediction
markets is that they become self-fulfilling outcomes, right? I mean.
So when you said tail of the tape, I knew you were going to go through a TikTok of some sort, but I also thought you were going to overlay the 10-year yield, because that seems to be an interesting thing to see, because when it seemed like it was Hassett.
I'm counting how long it takes to put it up in the back here.
After that, yields went up, 20 basis points or so in the next few weeks?
Yes. If you guys could put it up from, I don't know, maybe the 30th would be a good place to start that particular tail of the tape. Because some stuff happened, and I'll tell you what happened. The president said Hassett on Air Force One, and yields went down. I think that's the belly in the middle there, that decline. But that may not have been related to Hassett. And some of us, including me, reported the idea that maybe the market was not concerned about Hassett. But it was actually perhaps some comments made by the Treasury Secretary about some capital and leverage requirements that caused the banks to rally and yields to fall.
Okay.
And then I'm really wary. I'm wary of this, Melissa, because a lot of stuff influences the 10-year.
Of course.
But you are correct in that as that percentage rose of Hassett, yields also went up along with it. I actually made a chart. I don't know if it's around, and they ignored each other for a while. And then after the president said, I know who it is, Hassett and the 10-year yield went up. Hassett's probability and the 10-year went up together.
Yes.
And I think that may be part of the concern there, that it's okay for the Treasury Secretary and the chair to meet, and they don't apparently talk about rates. But it's not seen as okay for the president and the Fed chair. President and the Fed chair don't meet a lot, never really did.
And so what do you think the distinction is between sitting across from Scott Bessent and Bessent delivering whatever message may be delivered to the Fed chair via the president, meaning so you're the lieutenant of, versus, and Walter, we were discussing this with Walter during the commercial break, versus when the president looks you in the eye and says...
I'm not sure the president... I think you make an assumption here that I cannot prove through my reporting, which is that the Treasury Secretary and the Fed chair talk about interest rates. I'm not sure that's true. I think the word is they talk about the economy.
Right.
They talk about the outlook for inflation. I think the Treasury Secretary may discuss his plans to sell bonds because there's an impact on the Treasury there. For example, now the Fed is out there buying a lot of bills. That could help the Treasury Secretary issue fewer coupons. That's an issue, but I'm not sure they talk about interest rates. I would think that some Fed chairs who I know would think it inappropriate to talk about that with the administration and would think it's inappropriate certainly to talk about it with the president.
Well, then this would be a
In fact, I want to add one more thing, which is I know Fed chairs who think it's inappropriate to even meet with the president. If you notice, it was Powell waited until he got an invitation.
Right.
He did not call the president and said, let's meet. He waited till an invitation, and then they talked, and apparently they did not talk about interest rates. Now, there could be stuff going on behind the scenes I'm not aware, but that's the reporting I know.